It's amazing, huh? Your life in Mexico. Look at this.
Oh, yes,
Around the
that's
world.
good. Well, actually, I have it here too. Shall I
Where?
show you? I
Yes.
don't know how to show it to you. Here, there, next to
Your
my
life
face.
in Otro Plano.
Otro plano.
Worldwide connection.
That's great.
It's great. Great. Feels good.
It's amazing.
It's
Yes.
amazing. You have a great story. I love your story, and it's long, but I want to start with some chapter that is it's very important for the world, the technology world, and you know Google as a baby, right? When Google starts.
I met Google as a baby. Yes.
Yeah. Can you
A
tell me?
very tiny baby.
Can you tell me about that story? How you met Google as a little baby? What
Well,
all started?
so my daughter, oldest daughter, Susan,
Mm-hmm.
she got married
Uh-huh.
and she bought a house.
Uh-huh.
When you get married, that's the first thing you think about. I have to live someplace, right?
Exactly.
So, so she bought a big house.
Okay.
She wasn't thinking too much about the payment when she bought it. It has 6 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. Very big.
Okay.
Small. It was not a mansion. It's small rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And she came back from her honeymoon. She realized that she had to pay the bank, the rent.
We know that
And,
those stories.
And so she just thought, well, what should I do? And one of the things she thought about was like, well, maybe I don't need 6 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms because really it's only 2 people. I'll rent out the garage and I'll rent out a few of the bedrooms. And and I can stay in one of the bedrooms. So she had a friend who had some friends at Stanford. She was part of a group. And some of the friends were Larry Page and Sergey Brin. They were young guys who had come up with this idea for a search engine. And Susan thought, well, they look just as good as all the rest. I'll take them. And and so she rented the garage and 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms to the guys, the downstairs. And
Wow.
they moved in with so many computers, it was impossible to believe. They had computers in every room, including the bathroom. You went to the bathroom, there's
My
a computer
God.
there. They had wires up and down the hallway, all over the garage. It was crazy. And then the question Susan had was,
The other thing.
oh my God, what have I gotten myself into?
I imagine that. That's
Yes,
wow.
because it was like, oh my, they're all over the place.
Yeah.
And not only that, they seem to be hungry all the time.
No, I imagine. Teenagers.
Yeah, so
Teenagers.
they want to eat all my food. What am I going to do? And
Wow.
so it was pretty exciting to have them there, but they were there all the time,
I imagine.
like 24/7. And finally, to solve the food problem, because they were eating her food,
Mm-hmm.
she bought a refrigerator for them to put in the garage so that they could have a place to put some food.
Of course. Outside the house.
Well,
What a plague.
yeah. But
Okay.
anyway, so for 6 months or 8 months, they were in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And then she decided that she would try their search engine, see whether it worked or not.
Mm-hmm.
Because there were lots of companies at the time with search engines, so why would this one be any better? And she decided it was pretty good. Maybe she should, thinking about giving up her real job at Intel
She was
and
working
maybe
on.
working with these guys. It was a
Okay.
big risk. And so I guess they made some kind of agreement that they would work together and Susan would resign from Intel. But what was most interesting is that they had no money to have. She was hired as the project, I guess the PR person. She had to come up with a whole plan for making Google worldwide known and a plan for somehow to make money, because they had no idea how to make money. All they knew how to do was
Technology.
was search, but they didn't know anything else about that. So money? How do you make money? Oh, well, don't ask us. We don't know. So
And Susan is
and
more
Susan decided she would
go.
do this. She accepted the challenge, and she went to work for them with no budget. I don't know how she did this.
For how long?
I think they paid her a salary, but she had no budget to do the PR. Anyway, somehow she came up with a plan, the AdSense plan. She came up with a lot of plans. And
Business plan.
and
this
that
plan.
business plan, because they had no idea how to do a business either.
Of course.
And it was effective. It worked. And actually, within, I've forgotten, I think it was about 9 months, they moved out. Well, actually, she moved them out because she was also in charge of real estate and had to find a new home for them.
Of course.
And so she moved them to a new office that was near her house. And then each time they moved, she was responsible for helping them find a new place to move. And she kept moving and moving. So it was a very small company at that time, about 15, 20 employees, not very big.
Okay, and the rest is history.
Well, the rest is history.
And
right.
and Susan
history.
right now is the CEO of YouTube.
She's the CEO of YouTube.
Wow.
She actually is the one who bought YouTube for Google.
Wow.
And I've forgotten what year that might have been, 2007, something like that. She was originally in charge of the Google, I think it was called, it was a Google movie platform, and I don't remember what it was called, but it was Google Film or Google Movie or Google something. Anyway, she realized that what she did was not as good and that YouTube was better. So she actually had to admit to herself and to everybody that what she had done was no good and that they needed to spend $1 billion to buy YouTube.
$1 billion.
I think it was $1 billion.
Wow.
I don't know how much for sure, but I know it was a lot of money.
Wow.
And so she's very happy she bought it. She thinks YouTube is great.
It is. It
Yeah.
is.
And she's making it even better.
I know. Every day.
Yeah. Every day. Yeah. No, she works really hard at it. She's very passionate about it.
You also want to change the world, and I love your work and your passion to change the world in education. That is your field, and you've been a great teacher, very famous teacher in Palo Alto, and in the world now. And but you started always with a different way of thinking education since the beginning. With your students that call you Watch, right?
That's right.
They call you Watch. Watch. And,
they're always in a hurry. They can't say the whole name.
Exactly.
And also
Watch.
they like it better.
Watch?
Watch.
Watch.
I actually like it better too.
Can I call you Watch?
Yes, of course.
Thank you, Watch. Thank you, Watch. But you started with the notion of technology also since the beginning. I read that you started with the first Mac.
Yes.
The Mac that came, and you asked Mac for the Macintosh when Steve Jobs just announced it, and you were one of the first teachers that used computers in the school, right?
I was one of the first teachers that used computers. Let me explain why.
What?
So, I published a newspaper. At that point, it was a small newspaper.
The Campanile?
It was called the Campanile. It was about 6 to 8 pages long. And the tools that I had at that time was a typewriter. And so the students all had to type out their stories on a typewriter, and they had to cut it out with a razor blade.
Wow.
And they had to glue it onto a pasteboard. And
I remember.
And this was a very long, difficult process, and they frequently made mistakes. And they also cut themselves sometimes, when they're cutting
with
out
the
their
blade,
story.
Of course.
So when I saw a computer I'd never seen before in a store in Los Altos, and that you could just type, and if you make the mistake, you can just go back, right? There's no more erasing and crazy stuff. And you can actually do some layout on the computer. Oh my God, I got very excited because then I could get rid of this whole terrible system of a typewriter and razor blades. And so then I applied for a grant to the state of California to get 6 or 8 of these computers. And I was very fortunate. For some reason, whatever I did was effective, and I got the grant. And I got the computers.
Wow.
And they were very expensive at that time, so for teachers it was impossible to buy a computer. And they all arrived in my classroom, in the back of the room, in big boxes. And I had no idea how to even turn it on. I couldn't do anything except look at the box, which I was very good at doing. So then I admitted to my students that I did not know what I was doing and that I needed their help. And I explained what had happened and how I got this grant, and that if they didn't help me, we were all going to fail together.
Of course.
In
the same boat.
In the same boat. And so they were very excited about helping me. I mean, this turned out to be a revolution because they taught each other. They taught me. We learned how to network. I didn't even know what the word network meant. We bought lots of wires and all kinds of stuff. It took about 6 weeks, and finally we got these computers up and running, and it was kind of a miracle. And then from then on, my students were very excited. We were using computers. We were the first ones, probably, in the state of California, maybe the nation. I don't know, but using computers in a school
education. Now
for education.
I got your book in my Kindle.
Oh, great. I'm very happy to see that you got my book. Yes, Moonshots in Education.
I'm reading it. Moonshots in Education. Wow.
Yes.
We're going to talk about this because this is a revolutionary moment everywhere. And education is changing. Everything is changing. Technology is changing the world.
Yes.
And we need to adapt to those changes.
Yes.
We can fight, or we can adapt and try to navigate in those waters, I think.
Right.
Right? And then in this moment, the education is trying to change in Mexico, in the United States, because I think it's kind of obsolete for this new era, for this new century, the 21st century. The education as a system, it's kind of obsolete, Esther.
Yes, it's obsolete because
Why?
We are at this moment still training students for a factory model. We're training people who all know how to follow direction and fill out the form correctly, take tests properly, but we don't train them how to think. We don't train them how to be creative and innovative. As a matter of fact, they have a very hard time being innovative after we're done with 12 years of training them to obey, which is what we do in school.
Yeah, you're trying to obey. It's an obey system.
It's an obey system.
Discipline.
Right.
I'm going to teach you. Shut up. Listen to
Shut
me.
up, sit down, do what I tell you, and if you don't, you could get a bad grade, and then you will fail.
Yeah,
And so the
scary.
system doesn't work for the 21st century. Maybe it worked for the 20th century, but doesn't work now.
No, no. People have to admit this. Going to school is not a pleasant experience. It's painful sometimes.
It's painful for a lot of people.
It's painful,
Yeah,
and it should be the other way. Be
right,
joyful. Be an experience of joy,
right.
because
It
knowledge is
should,
joy.
well, people never thought of it that way. As a matter of fact, in the last century, 20th century, people thought the more painful it was, the more you learned. That is, I'm trying to accentuate the amount of pain you suffered.
Education
Terrible
comes
idea.
from You need
Yes,
to learn.
hitting kids,
Hitting
there were a
kids.
lot of people that were, they still, some places in the United States this is still legal, which
Yeah,
is
I know.
really bad.
In my
You didn't learn something, you got hit.
Yeah, in my school they used to hit me, and
Um,
what? Why? Because you need to listen and
that's
learn. It's not
right.
interesting what you are saying, please. Okay, but you're using and you are in this moonshot for education. I love the analogy of moonshot
Oh, good.
education because it's what Kennedy used to say when they were in the race of the moon, right?
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you call moonshot for the education, your book?
So I called it moonshots because I have an analogy between going to the moon
Mm-hmm.
in the 1960s was very difficult. It took a lot of resources, a lot of big thinking, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of energy. And finally, it took about 9 years, and finally, we got a man to the moon.
Yes.
And so the reason I call this a moonshot is because it is extremely difficult in education to change the way that we are teaching. We have been trying to teach for the past 500 years by the lecture system. You
Mm-hmm.
sit in a classroom, the professor or teacher lectures for an hour, you take notes, and then you leave. And the idea is to keep the classroom quiet. Everybody's quiet, everybody's listening, and everybody's taking notes. And then at the end of the week or the end of 2 weeks, you take a test, usually a test of what the professor said. And this system, prior to the technical age, was probably the best system we had. But
Mm-hmm.
today,
So the
it
Industrial
doesn't
Revolution.
work
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry.
because we have a revolution. We have a tech revolution,
Yes.
and you no longer need to memorize all the stuff that you memorized before because everybody has a cell phone in their pocket. And in that cell phone, they can search
All
for
the
pretty much anything they want to search for as long as they know how to search. So one of the things I teach is how to search, you know,
Exactly.
how to
Exactly.
search and how to know whether the results that you get are accurate, how to figure out,
Critical
how
thinking.
to get the information you want. And then also not only to be a receiver of information, but how to be a creator of information. If you have something that you want to change in the world, you should be able to know how to write effectively so you too can be a blogger, or you can write Facebook posts, or you can do about things other than your dog, your cat, or what you had for dinner. Um, so you can if you're concerned, you can make some changes, in the world. It's up to each individual what they think is important, because what's important in Africa might not be the same thing that's important in Mexico or in California. And so we need to give people these tools so they can participate in the world as it's going forward. And they need to be innovative. They
Of
can't just
course.
follow instructions.
That sounds like fun. The other system
It
sounds
is.
like stress. It's a lot of a stress, that system, because you describe it so well in your book. You have a teacher that is not happy, or he or she doesn't have to look happy because he needs to impose respect. Bad face
Right.
until Christmas. Don't smile
Yes.
until Christmas. You say that, and
That's right.
and the students, they cannot be enjoying the class, talking and sharing, and no, they have to be quiet and listen to the lecture and memorize, and
Right.
and everything produces stress, a
Right.
lot of stress, because at the end the teacher needs to be evaluated.
Yes.
The
Yes.
the students needs to be evaluated,
Yes.
and everything. I don't know. You describe it so well. How is that system? How this system produces stress?
Well, it
Esther.
produces a lot of stress because most teachers come out of a school of education. Most teachers are trained to keep the distance from the students. And I think I put that in the book. I was taught when I went to school of education that I was not supposed to smile until Christmas because you don't want the students to know that you're friendly.
Oh,
You want to be like,
fear.
difficult.
Yeah.
And so,
Well,
and and I think a lot of teachers still have this philosophy that if you know the students too well, that then they won't listen to you and won't do what you tell them to do. But that's based on the philosophy that you constantly have to tell them what to do, which is wrong. Students should have some agency, some ability to think of what's important themselves. So if you're in a language class, a teacher can talk for 15 or 20 minutes, but then the students should be able to use tools within that class to do things that matter to them, so that at least you're sharing 50% or 20% of the time. Students have some opportunity to do what is important to them in the class.
it sounds like it can produce chaos, because you describe in your book that one inspector once, he went to the school and went to your classroom, and he said, "What? This is a chaos. Everybody's talking. Everybody's happy. Everybody's wow." And you were like a friend of them, or I don't know. And
Right.
it reminds me the Sound of Music. Remember
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
So everybody's happy. It can be happy. The people. It needs to be the like the Bond. Remember the other guy, the Bond character. And the
Yes.
Sound of Music, it was great because it reminds me that when I read this in your book.
It's true, though. This is true that
But
you want the students to want to be there. You learn more when you want to be there and when you're happy and when what you're learning makes sense and you interact with your peers. It's just, my students all want to be there. Actually, one of the problems that we have is asking them to go home.
yeah, leave, please.
They leave. It's
Leave.
true. It's really true.
But
I know. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you need to go. The building has to be cleared. You can't stay longer than that. Actually, sometimes I agree to stay to 6.
cool,
But
no more. Esther, but how you can prevent that this free system don't become chaotic, or you use a system or trying to use a system that it's calling blended education. Blended
so it's a
education.
blend of the old model and the new model.
It's a blend.
So
Okay.
the teacher can still lecture because teachers love to lecture.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing is that the other part should be giving students some kind of project or some kind of work that gives them the freedom to do work that is related to the topic but interesting to them. So it can be for every single subject has something that can be important to the student.
For example, I'm a student of you, and I said, watch, I want to learn about broadcasting systems for the internet or whatever, and you let me do that?
Yeah, actually, we have a broadcast program. We have all the programs that we have now, so many programs. So we have television, we have video production, we have radio, newspapers, magazines, pretty much anything you can think of. And all these different magazines we have are all ideas that students came up with. Mm-hmm. So, the most recent magazine is called the C Magazine, and it was a magazine devoted to arts and entertainment.
C Magazine.
And it's called C. It was like the New York Times T Magazine.
Mm-hmm.
We named
beautiful.
it the C Magazine.
Looks professional, totally.
It looks really professional, but I can tell you when they first came up with some of the ideas that they wanted to write about, I said, "Oh my God, what is coming?" And they wrote about how to bake cookies, and they baked the cookies, took pictures of the cookies, wrote the recipes of the cookies up, and then published articles about cookies or about drinks or about how to braid your hair or what kind of clothes to wear. I'm not kidding. I never would have picked these articles, but you know what? Lots of kids loved the articles, and the magazine became very popular. So they're writing for their own friends, their peer group, their audience, and it made it a very, very compelling argument.
Even sex.
Yes, they write about sex.
Yes.
They write about interracial marriage. They write about everything that is important to them. And I mean, the only limitations I have is no obscenity. You have to be very careful about libel. You never want to write something about someone that might destroy their reputation.
Exactly.
And no inciting to riot. Those are only 3 things. That's the same thing the professional press does. So I just go along with the same. I treat them as though they're professionals. And so, for example, we also have a sports magazine, and we started that because I wanted to make sure all the boys had something exciting they wanted to write about. So we write about all the sports at our school. And what's great about it is that they write about the sports, the boys in the sports, and the pictures and so forth. They look professional. So all these kids look like they're professional players. They're really happy. I'm happy because they're learning to write, and they're happy, and they're learning to get along. It just solves all the problems.
Education for real life.
It's education for real life. It's education for the real world, because you can take those skills and you can go out. I don't care whether you're a farmer or whether you're a professor or an auto salesman. You can use those skills today in the technology age.
Exactly.
We need it everywhere, not just in one place.
And there's a lot of examples of this. It's Verde, Voice, Viking, In Focus,
right.
Campanelli, of course. And
Yes.
you teach your students to be a journalist because you are a journalist. And you
Right.
said that journalism, it's about thinking.
Yes.
You need to think. You teach
That's
that.
absolutely right. So the reason I use journalism is because the journalists have to get the information right, and they have to get it first. And so these are not just skills for journalists. These are skills for human beings in the 21st century. You need to be able to get information, get it right, and share it. And we all need to know how to do this, not just a few people. This is the This is the century of media.
What the century of media?
Yes.
How do you see the new jobs? Watch. How do you see in your mind the jobs that are not coming yet, that doesn't exist yet?
Right.
How are those jobs? Because people is losing jobs everywhere. Is like, I don't know.
The old jobs are disappearing,
Mm-hmm.
and the new jobs are coming. And all the new jobs are based on technology, every single one of them. Knowing how to use the internet, knowing how to communicate, work collaboratively, write for the internet. All those jobs are really important. And we don't even know 65% of the jobs that are coming.
No.
But we do know that they're coming. And as
Sure.
long as we continue to use the internet. And so right now in today's world, we have more cell phones on the planet than human beings. That's because some people have two. But in the next 5 years, every single person on the planet that is not an infant or a small child is going to have a cell phone. And
Imagine,
that's the way it's mobile. All the communication is mobile.
imagine people can watch this conversation all over the world in right now and
Right
in a
now.
mobile.
Yeah, can you believe that?
Imagine
Everywhere.
everybody.
Imagine.
A world that everybody's connected. Wow, it will change.
It's dramatic.
Dramatic.
I mean, when I first started to teach with a typewriter, nobody could communicate anything. It was like the telephone. We all used to sit home and wait for a phone call. Remember that?
Yeah.
You were too young, but that's true.
No, of course not. Thank you. No. But now it's a WhatsApp world, and what's next? Facebook, Google, and poof, we are
Yes.
in super speed, in
Right.
accelerated times, but fascinated
Well,
times.
that's right. We're all in super speed. Everybody
Super
wants
speed.
things done quickly, and they're getting it done quickly.
I want.
And so we need all our students to know these skills, and they all want to.
Yeah,
It's
and-
not like I'm forcing something down
No.
their throat. They love learning this stuff.
And
Can
everybody.
you imagine?
Exactly. And everybody wants the revolution right now. They don't want to
Yeah.
wait. They want a revolution. They want to change. They love the change. But I will ask you, in this scenario, to transform this, to create this atmosphere, a blended education and the moonshot education, I call it.
Yes.
The moonshot education is, it needs to be in a certain ambient atmosphere created by some trick that you have. You use the word trick.
I use the word trick.
Trick
I'll
to create
explain.
that atmosphere of respect.
Yes.
Can you tell us
It's
about it?
it's key. It's the key.
It's the key to create that
Right.
to launch
So the
that system.
trick stands for trust,
Trust.
respect, independence,
Uh-huh.
collaboration, and kindness. And this is what needs to happen in all the classrooms. The teacher has to have some trust of the students
Trust.
and respect for their ideas. Students come up with really crazy ideas, but they are crazy. But maybe this is the idea of the future. Why should I, the teacher, decide that this idea has no value? You give them an opportunity, to try it out. Maybe it will work. Maybe it won't work.
Yeah, but
And
who
to
are
give
you?
them some independence to do this. So in most of the classes around the world today, there is no trust at all. No trust and no respect for students. The teacher, in many classes, the teacher is the only one speaking, and all the conversation goes through the teacher. So the student raises a hand, and the teacher acknowledges the student. The student says something to the teacher. All the other students listen, and then another student raises a hand and then says something. So the whole education goes through the teacher. It's a very slow process. It's it's ineffective, and it doesn't show any trust for the students to work as with each other. I don't know. Do you understand what I mean when I say
Totally.
that the teacher is in control and all the conversation goes through the teacher?
I
So if you
understand.
trust students, if you give them an assignment that says, okay, we're studying, I don't know, um, the Christopher Columbus, or the War of 1812, or whatever you're studying, and then you say to them, I want you to go online and find out as much information as you can about this topic. And then I want you to talk to your friends about it and then come up with, what do you think is the important information that you found? I'll tell you, they're much more excited to do this than they are to listen to me talk about it.
Of course.
For 15 minutes. I'm boring
No,
them to
boring.
tears.
No. It
No,
doesn't
but
have
most teachers, yeah, it's just boring to listen. It's much better to be active. And they
Exactly.
come up with all this information. They come up with more than I even knew
Of course.
about it,
They're geniuses
because
sometimes. They're geniuses. And they have
they are so smart.
brilliant minds. And
Right.
and sometimes in this system of just the teacher talking, they sometimes need to put the student in drugs, in Ritalin, and
Yes,
Ritalin to put attention, because they say that they have a syndrome of lack of attention.
it's called ADD. What it really
ADD.
is they're totally bored to
Boring.
death.
The teacher
And
is
they can't
loser.
tolerate it another minute.
I can tolerate this guy talking. I can wait to get in my phone to get
Let's
information
drug
about
them
it.
so that they can sit there
And look,
quietly and not pay attention. You won't even know it.
imagine, and it's a lot of people trying to. Wow.
So
We need to.
I think if students are active, if I have a student that comes in and says they have ADD, I say, oh, that's interesting. Let me tell you about my health history. And then, and I say, we have in our room right here, we have exercycles. If you feel like you're a little antsy or you're having some, want to run around, just jump on the exercycle and do a little bit of exercising right here in class. It's
That's
true. I have
great.
about 10 of those exercycles in class.
Oh, wow.
You know what
What
an
a great.
exercycle is?
Yes, sure, sure.
Those, yeah,
Bike.
you
Walk
can take your
machine.
computer and sit there and ride the bike, and then you feel better. And
Very smart. I love that. I was happy in kindergarten. I was really happy in kindergarten and primary. No, the nightmare starts in primary. And then
yes,
high school.
the nightmare starts, in
No.
about second or third grade.
High school. No.
And then the
Primary.
other part of the nightmare is the grading process.
Oh,
The kids are so upset with the grading. My system is that everybody starts with an A, and that they just have to not do the work to get a lower grade. They have to work at getting lower than an A.
how's
I
that?
tell you, works. So they have to turn in their assignments,
Mm-hmm.
and it's first corrected by each other, but they turn it in, and then if it's not good, they get it back with the corrections on it, but in fact, there's no grade. They don't get a grade until it's an A. So sometimes they have to revise things once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, but whatever it takes,
That's
you
life.
revise it and
That's
you're
life.
done. So
That's
you don't have to stress about your grade.
You have
Because
to
the
learn
idea is to learn, not to worry about the grade.
to mastery.
Mastery. It's called mastery. A
Mastery.
mastery system.
What
Right.
mastery is, no matter if you fail, do it again.
Do it
Do it
again.
again.
Do
That's
it again.
life.
That's right.
That's in
So
Palo.
just keep doing it until you get it right.
In Palo
So I
Alto.
don't think, and nobody asks children, like, how old were you when you learned to walk? Because some kids learn at 9 months and some kids learn at 18 months. Doesn't seem to matter. They all walk at some point, So
Yeah.
what difference does it make? So people have different learning styles. And so if it takes you longer, just okay. It takes you longer, just do it.
And nobody teach you to fail. That fail is fine. That you have to fail in life to succeed. In Silicon Valley, we see the histories, and it's a lot of failures.
It's a lot of failures. So we have a lot of startups, and I don't know if people know the statistics on the startups, but for every 10 startups, 8 fail. Only 20% succeed.
Wow.
So, you know, a lot of people are failing with other people's money. That's a big failure, right? But these people don't give up. They do it again.
And again.
And so that's the general mentality. If one startup fails, they try another startup. So that's just the way it is.
I can talk with you all day, but I know that we have I don't know, time. I'm gonna take 10 more minutes with you, Esther. But
okay, sounds good.
Thank you. How we change the system here in Mexico, for example, the government wants to evaluate the teachers, a lot of evaluations and that, but they want to evaluate something that it's out, a system that doesn't work anymore. We need to talk. We need to be talking about changing the system, not evaluating this one, changing it, adapting to the new century. That needs to be the focus in the talking, not how. Right? I'm sorry.
Yes. Yeah. So what the first step in that direction is to talk to the teachers and get the teachers to understand how this trust, respect, independence, collaboration, kindness, how that is going to make their classrooms easier for them to teach and less stressful. So you need to work with the teachers because they've been trained, and we have thousands of teachers in the classroom who've all been trained that the most important thing to do in a classroom is to maintain total control. If you look up classroom control on Google, you get 152 million results. That shows how many people are looking it up. So in Mexico, I think that the Department of Education is interested in this philosophy. And if we started even with just having 20% of the time students having some control of their education, that would make a difference. That just that idea would make a difference to everybody and make the schools. And then when teachers see that, the idea that students are actually going to be doing something that is beneficial to them and making the teacher's life easier, then they'll be more willing to take another risk and perhaps expand this to a little bit more time.
It will be less stress for them, more less work.
Less work. You know, it's easier for a teacher if you're going to give a lecture on the Industrial Revolution, talking about what happened. It's easier for a teacher to have the students come up with the information and talk about it to their friends in class than it is for the teacher to prepare a lecture for an hour. So the teacher just needs to realize that all those students there, they're pretty smart, actually. They can do a lot of the work. And by the way, while they're doing the work, they learn. And so why not allow them to help out in the class and do some of the teaching? And so, as I said, it's a blended learning model. So the blend is the teacher still can lecture for 50% of the time, and then the rest of the time give the students an opportunity. And yes, it's going to look chaotic. I mean, if you go into a company, you will see people working in teams. They're not all lined up in a row listening to the CEO talk, you know. No. They're all working together in teams, and it looks a little chaotic.
Yeah, it looks chaotic.
That's just the way it looks, and that's okay.
You've been inside of Google a lot of times. It's chaotic too, right? that company and other
I've been in
companies?
Google a lot. Yeah,
It's a,
there's a lot of teams, people walking around. There's no strict hours. You know, you
mm,
don't have to show up at 8 o'clock and check out at 5 o'clock. You come to work when you come to work, and then you leave when you're done. And in the meantime, if you're hungry, there's a snack bar just down the hall. There's free lunch over here. I mean, you do the work. Here's the work. You find a teammate that's going to be working together with you on whatever project it is, and you do the project. I mean, Google embodies this whole philosophy.
mm.
They they basically give their employees a lot of responsibility, a lot of trust, and a lot of respect.
It's a blended work.
It's a blended work. It's a yes, as opposed to the work where you check in and the boss sits over and tells you what to do.
Beautiful. You were here in one conference in Mexico, the Manos Líderes, with
Yes,
one
Manos
of my
Líderes.
friends, Marco Ferrara.
Yes,
That is a friend.
that was great.
It's
That was
also
a
your
great
friend.
conference. It was the first. He's planning to do another. He's planning a series of these conferences, going to be known as Manos.
Manos.
And the next one is coming in September, I think, of 2016.
You'll be here?
And it's going to be in Monterrey, which is pretty exciting. And I think it's going to be longer. So it'll be probably 2 or 3 days with more speakers. And so that was the first one, which was great. And he did a fantastic job on the first one. And so, of course, now he's more excited and has even more energy now that the first one was so successful.
Yeah. It's also your
So-
friend, right? Marco is...
Marcos is my close friend. Yeah,
Yes.
it's a very good friend. I'm very excited to be helping him. And he's got a wonderful project and a great vision to help eliminate poverty in Mexico.
Mhm.
And I think the key to eliminating this poverty is really to education. Those children, they're so smart. They know. And
they know how to do it. They know how to solve it.
they know how to do it, and you give them an opportunity to learn, and they will actually do it. So I'm excited to be part of that project with Marco and Manos.
And did you talk with the teachers here? You had the opportunity
Well,
to
so
talk
they've
with some?
asked me to speak with the teachers. They're translating my book, hopefully into Spanish soon.
Really?
It's supposed to be done in the next few months.
Great.
And then I'd like to talk with the teachers in Mexico. You know, Mexico's an extremely creative country, basically, and
Yes.
I mean, this is just perfect for Mexico. It would work like a charm.
We just need the opportunity. We are so creative. We are so, I don't know, out of the box. We just need the inspiration and the opportunity to show those skills to the world. We are.
That's absolutely the case. Yes,
Yeah.
you have great children. They're already born with this incredible creativity and curiosity. We just need to nurture it, and
Yes.
and I don't want to upset the teachers. So that's why I say 50% of the time the teachers can still lecture because teachers like to lecture. But the other 50%, how about devoting that to the kids and their creativity and innovation, optimism?
Beautiful. Esther Wojcicki, thank you very
Thank you.
much. Thank you for your time. And this is your media in
Oh.
Mexico to share your thoughts,
Thank you.
your ideas, your book, whatever you want to share with us. I want to offer this space to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'll probably take you up on this so I can come back with some more ideas
Of course.
anytime.
Of course. We understand you were in the same boat, in the same channel. We wanna be part of the revolution. Of the
That's
evolution. It's the evolution.
Evolution,
Evolution,
yes.
no
The
revolution.
revolution that's changing the evolution of our way we work and think.
Yes, yes. And next month, I think I'll travel to Palo Alto. We are trying to do a documentary like Vice, something like in the style of Vice, or I don't know. And I don't know. Hope to see you there.
Hope to see you. Come visit me and you'll see all my students.
Oh,
and
yeah,
the
I want to
building
go to your school.
And how the whole thing works.
I want to live the experience of that blended, beautiful cows, beautiful mission that you have.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Hmm.
So until next time.
Until next time, thank you, Esther.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Adios.
Adios.